Welcome to the Human Meme Podcast. I'm AI David Boles, and along with our crackbot AI research team, we present to you an episode titled Revolution or Regression: The Untold Story of American Children's TV from the 1950s to the Streaming Era. And we promise to create a captivating journey through the dynamic landscape of children's television in America. From the black and white simplicity of the 1950s to the complex digital age of today, we will explore how children's programming has evolved, shaped societal norms, and responded to technological advancements. This exploration is not just a trip down memory lane, but a critical analysis of how these changes reflect and influence our culture, education, and the very essence of childhood. Join me, friends, as we root into this intriguing narrative, uncovering the nuanced shifts and the profound impacts they have had on generations of young viewers. Let's start by turning back the clock to the 1950s, the dawn of the television era. During this time, television was a new and exciting medium. Shows like The Mickey Mouse Club, Captain Kangaroo, and Howdy Doody became not just entertainment but a part of the American childhood experience. These shows were pioneering, not just in their content but in their understanding that children were a unique audience with specific needs. As we moved into the 1960s and 70s, children's programming began to reflect the changing social fabric of America. Shows like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood not only entertained but educated. They tackled complex issues like diversity, acceptance, and emotional intelligence, becoming staples in many American homes. But was children's programming required by law? The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, which regulates TV broadcasts in the United States, did indeed step in. In 1990, the Children's Television Act was enacted, requiring broadcast television stations to offer programming specifically designed to serve the educational and informational needs of children. This act was a recognition of the powerful role television could play in the development of a child's mind and character. Then came the cable revolution. Channels like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel emerged, dedicating their entire programming to children. This was a significant shift. Unlike broadcast television, which had a broader audience, these cable channels could focus solely on children's content. This era brought us classics like Blue's Clues and Dora the Explorer, which continued the tradition of combining entertainment with education. So, what was the golden era of children's television? Many argue it was the late 20th century when both broadcast and cable TV were producing high-quality content specifically for children. This period was marked by a rich diversity of shows that were not only entertaining but also educational. But why, you might ask, is there no mandatory children's programming on broadcast or cable television today? The answer lies in the changing landscape of media consumption. With the advent of the Internet and streaming services, the traditional television model has been upended. Platforms like YouTube, Netflix, and others now offer a plethora of children's content, accessible on demand, making the traditional broadcast model less relevant. This shift has significant implications. While there is more children's content available than ever before, it is not regulated in the same way as broadcast content. The educational quality and ethical standards of shows are not overseen by a body like the FCC when it comes to streaming platforms. This raises questions about the impact on children who rely solely on these platforms for content. Moreover, there's a digital divide issue. Not all families have access to high-speed internet or subscription services. This means a segment of children is missing out on both the educational and entertainment value that children's programming provides. This gap can have long-term effects on their cognitive and social development. The transition into the 21st century marked a significant shift in children's television. The rise of digital media and streaming services fundamentally altered the landscape. This era saw a decline in traditional children's programming on broadcast and cable TV. The shift was not just in the medium, but also in the content. The new millennium brought with it a more sophisticated and diverse range of shows, addressing a broader spectrum of themes and narratives. These changes, while progressive, also signaled the end of an era. The era of children's television as a shared communal experience. This shift raises an important question. What have we lost in this transition? When children's television moved from a communal living room experience to individual, on-demand viewing, there was a loss of a collective cultural touchstone. Shows like Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood were more than just programs. They were shared experiences that transcended generations. They were part of a communal dialogue, a shared language of growing up in America. Moreover, the decline in regulated children's programming has implications for educational content. The Children's Television Act of 1990, as we discussed earlier, was a landmark in ensuring that broadcast television provided educational and informative content for children. With the shift to digital platforms, this regulatory oversight has waned. The content children consume now is more about consumer choice and less about educational value. Furthermore, the digital divide cannot be overstated. In a world where access to quality educational content increasingly requires internet access and subscription services, children from lower-income families are at a disadvantage. This gap can lead to disparities in educational and developmental outcomes. It's not just about access to content, but access to quality content. This brings us to the present day. The landscape of children's television is more fragmented than ever. There's an abundance of content, but the challenge now is about curation and quality. Parents and educators play a more critical role in guiding children through this vast digital landscape. The onus is on them to find content that is not only entertaining, but also enriches and educates. As we reflect on the journey of children's television, it's clear that while the medium and content have evolved, the core purpose remains to educate, entertain, and inspire our youngest minds. The challenge for us as a society is to ensure that this purpose is fulfilled for every child, regardless of their background or circumstances. As we draw to a close on today's episode of the Human Meme Podcast, let's take a moment to reflect on our journey through the evolving world of children's television in America. We began in the 1950s witnessing the birth of a new medium that would become a cornerstone of American childhood. We saw how shows like The Mickey Mouse Club and Captain Kangaroo set the stage for what was to come. As we moved through the decades, we observed the pivotal role of the Children's Television Act of 1990 in shaping content, and the transformative impact of cable TV, bringing dedicated children's channels like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. We entered the golden era of children's television, rich with diverse and educational content, only to see it give way to the current landscape dominated by streaming services and digital platforms. This shift, while offering an abundance of content, has raised concerns about the loss of communal viewing experiences, regulatory oversight, and the widening digital divide. Our exploration highlights the significant role children's television plays in educating, entertaining, and influencing young minds. As we sign off, let's remember that while the platforms and content may change, the responsibility to provide enriching, accessible, and equitable programming for our children remains a vital pursuit in our society. I'm AI David Boles, thanking you for joining us today on this curious journey, and stay tuned for more thought-provoking discussions here on the Human Meme Podcast. Be a human meme.